Happy New Year, Jason. I know it's a little late to be saying that. We're already in the middle of the month, but it's the first podcast of 2025, and we're thrilled to be back in 2025 with more episodes of the Champions of Homecare Podcast. I hope your New Year's off to a great start, Jason.
Thanks, it is, except for how cold it is outside and braving these negative temperatures, but I'm sure that will fade eventually. So Happy New Year to you too. So glad that we can ring in the new year with a podcast wrapping up our mini-series about CFSS, the new self-directed home care option here in Minnesota, which offers people who need home services more choice, control, and flexibility with their services and supports. And David, I'm sure you remember our first two mini-series episodes. We talked about the two service delivery models that are part of CFSS, the agency model and the budget model. Now we're ready to cover the third and final component, which is consultation services.
Yes, and consultation services, it's kind of interesting because it is the springboard for getting people transitioned into the agency or the budget model. So we're really thrilled to welcome today a consultation services expert, and he really is, I think, probably the most knowledgeable person in the state. Peter Noss, who is the Executive Director of Asura, and Asura is one of the new CFSS consultation services providers here in Minnesota. So Peter, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, David and Jason. I appreciate it.
Well, Jason mentioned a moment ago the frigid temperatures out there. So hopefully this information will bring warmth and comfort to some people that we can provide here today. So let's just start with the basics, Peter. What are consultation services?
Consultation Services, as you said previously, is the first of the three new services that DHS is offering. And what Consultation Services does is we explain to participants who have been assessed for home care services what the agency model services are and what the budget model services are. So they can make the most informed decision about their service. And then we help them to the degree that they want write their service delivery plan for their direct support professional to complete each day.
So to be really clear, the consultation service provider doesn't make the choice for the client, but rather provides them with the information about the budget model or the agency model so that the client, the individual who needs and uses those services that are provided by CFSS, like PCA, et cetera, so that they can make an informed decision. But the consultation provider is not making the decision for them.
Definitely not. This is all about increased choice and increased independence for the participants who are assessed for home care services. So we do the best job we can to help describe both new service programs so that they can make the best decision that works for them.
Now, Peter, you also mentioned the support that the consultation provider offers in the creation of the home care plan. So talk a little bit more about what specifically is involved in helping the client craft and create their home care plan.
Well, once the assessment is completed by the lead agency or tribal nation, it is important for the participant to know what activities of daily living they were assessed they need assistance with. And then those are the pieces that go into putting together the service delivery plan. And again, to help increase independence, the participant can get as much or as little help from the consultation provider as they want. If they want to do it all themselves, then they can put the service delivery plan together and then show it to us, and then we'll walk through it with them to make sure that it is ready for approval by the lead agency. Or if they want us to look at the assessment that's been done on them and we put it all together, the service delivery plan, then we will complete it and then show it to them before we submit it to the lead agency for final approval.
And when you say lead agency, you're referring to?
Either their county or their managed care, whoever did the assessment for them.
Okay. I just, when we use terms like lead agency, there are some folks who may be entering CFSS or PCA related services, and that for the first
Yes.
time, and that may not be a recognizable term for them. So thank you. I just wanted to get that out there so that we're really clear. And even though Accra, that sponsors this podcast, provides this podcast, is not offering consultation services, current Accra clients can continue to work with Accra for their home care services, correct?
That is correct, because both of the two new programs, the agency model and the budget model, will be supplied by Accra. So they do not have to, if they're currently receiving PCA services or the consumer support grant, or they're brand new to services whatsoever, they can choose Accra, and it is their choice. That's one thing that's very important, that a consultation provider cannot, will not, or should not give any influence onto which service provider agency a participant chooses. Again, this is about choice for the participant.
Jason, I haven't given you much of a chance to say anything yet, as is usual.
Maybe that can be a New Year's resolution.
Hint, hint, right?
I'm just kidding. So, Peter, for those folks who knew CFSS was coming and they're wondering when they're going to get set up with consultation services, or how to get started, what are the first steps? Like, what should clients be doing?
Yep, they really don't need to do anything until it is their time to be assessed or reassessed for their home care services. They don't really need to do any homework, because that's the good thing about consultation services. Once they are assessed for services, the person who assessed them will give them a list of all of the consultation providers in the state of Minnesota. And they will choose, they being the participant who is assessed, they will have to choose their consultation provider. And so then they would contact them. And then at that point, we will set up a meeting to talk about the agency and budget model to help them see which one would work best for them.
Mm-hmm.
So
you have your reassessment, you have your initial meeting with the consultation services provider. How long does this relationship last for? Is it just sort of the springboard that we alluded to earlier, or is this a relationship that they maintain for a while in getting consultation?
That's a really good question, Jason. This is an ongoing relationship. We will be there throughout their entire service agreement, and we do not get paid from the participant. There is a budget that comes from the state of Minnesota that we get reimbursed by. So participants don't need to worry about that if they meet with us every week or every month or twice a year, that's coming out of any of their money. So we're there if they need assistance with agency model questions, budget model questions, or anything. If they want to make any changes in their service delivery plan, they can certainly meet with us. Also, any participant who receives home care services who does not have any case management or supervisor, we are required to meet with them mid-year of their service agreement, just to see how their services are going.
So just to be really clear about this for our listeners' sake, when you choose a consultation provider, you're not choosing an organization to help you through just this process of selecting your budget or agency model for the future, but it does continue as an ongoing relationship. It's not just that process of choosing your new provider or staying with your current provider, but choosing one of those two new models. The relationship continues. So the person who's seeking you out for services doesn't have to worry about feeling abandoned once they make the choice of their new service model.
Correct. We're here for any questions that they may have. We want to make sure that this transition from the other home care services into the agency model or budget model is as smooth as possible. And again, this is one of those things where the state really thought about, we want to help people feel that increased independence that they have. So there might be 1 year where we've done the service delivery plan for the participant, and when it comes time for them to get reassessed the following year, maybe they might take a hand at trying to do a little bit of the service delivery plan themselves, because they've got that year under their belt where they know the program a little bit better, they understand their services a little bit better, their ADLs, their assistance with daily living better. So they might be able to get their hands into that plan a little bit more.
Great. And I know that Asura is not the only consultation service provider in the state of Minnesota. So how do clients or individuals who are currently, facing this transition, how do they choose a provider, a consultation provider, and where do they find? I mean, is there a list somewhere of these providers, or how do they?
There surely is, right on the Minnesota DHS website. So you can just go into your search engine. I'm not going to promote one or the other, but you can go into your search engine, whether it's on a computer, laptop, tablet, or smartphone, and just type in MN consultation providers, and it will bring up a page that shows all of the current consultation providers.
And are these, somebody like, now I know Asura is based in the metro area, but you can serve the entire state, correct?
Correct. Asura, I don't know about the other consultation providers. We haven't talked about it, and it's not necessarily something, that shows on the page, but Asura does handle any participants from any of the 87 counties in the state of Minnesota.
Great. I think that's very helpful for, participants to know that just because they live in Moorhead, they don't have to choose a provider in that area. They can choose Asura because Asura serves the entire state.
And this is also not a service that needs to be done in person. I think that's another thing that's important.
Good point.
We can do that over the phone. We can do it via email if we need to. So there are, or virtual meetings, just like this podcast. We're doing this all over the computer. So we can certainly do whatever works best for the participant.
Great. Anything else that you can think of that clients or participants, people who use home and community-based services, need to know about CFSS?
Well,
any tricks or tips?
For consultation services, I would ask for people's patience, because there are going to be over 56,000 people over the course of a year who are assessed for home care services. Currently, there are only 18 consultation providers. So if we don't get back to you, if we're not able to pick up the phone, give us 24 hours to get back to you, 48 hours to get back to you. We are constantly hiring qualified professional consultation advisors. That's not going to stop, because we want to make sure that everyone out there gets quality consultation service. So please be patient and give your consultation provider an opportunity to get back in touch with you. The other thing to keep, go ahead, David.
No, I was just going to say, so over 56,000 individuals have to transition through CFS to the new CFSS model. And there are 18 consultation service providers, and every one of those 56,000 plus individuals has to go through a consultation services process.
Correct. Yes.
So
every single one.
Is it safe? This is a loaded question, so forgive me, but is it safe to assume that all of those 18 consultation service providers have the same capacity?
It is not safe to say that. You're correct. That is a loaded question.
It is a loaded question. And I know that I'm not trying to disparage anybody, but I think it's important for folks to know that the different providers out there have different capacity.
Correct. Yes.
They just do.
Yes. And each provider will make a choice as far as how many participants they think they can handle. Asura has made the decision to hire as many consultation advisors as we need to take on as many participants as we can. There are other consultation providers who may cap the amount, and that's totally their right and their decision to do as a business, to cap how many people they hire to provide consultation services. But Asura will provide as many advisors as we need so that we can keep taking participants.
Well, and forgive me for kind of, moving off to the side there, a little sidebar on kind of the quote unquote politics of it and all that. I didn't mean to do that. But what I wanted to do is underscore your comment about please be patient, whether you're calling Asura or any other.
Yes. Yes. Not just Asura. Give everyone the grace.
Please be. Yep.
Yeah. Because the other thing, especially if you're being reassessed for services, we will not be able to work with you until your new service agreement starts. You are assessed for services within 60 days of your new service agreement. So if your service agreement expires on March 1st or on February 28th, we will not be able to start working with you until March 1st.
Right.
So if you were assessed on January 4th, because again, within that 60 days, if you were assessed on January 4th, we won't start like really talking with you about agency and budget model services until after the end of your current service agreement. So don't worry about needing to get ahead, because you will be given a 6-month service agreement for the current services you are receiving, which I think that's important for all people to know too. So we have technically 6 months on your new service agreement to get you all set up for your new agency or budget model service. And once that is done, then you can transition. You don't have to wait for that 6-month new service agreement to end to start your new services.
Right. So as a friend of ours likes to say, it's a race, not a sprint.
Correct.
So, patience is, and this is a learning curve for the entire state. This is a new process. CFSS is new for everyone. Now, the consultation services providers like Asura have gone through some, very specific training and preparation in cooperation with DHS to prepare to provide this service, but it's still new. It's a new model, and the budget and agency models are new. And so it's a learning curve for everybody. So a little patience, a little grace doesn't hurt.
Exactly.
Yeah. Any final tips or tricks that you would share with our listeners, other than the patience?
I would just let people know that if they're super curious, like maybe their service agreement doesn't expire until July or August, if they have any questions, we would be glad to answer any initial questions that people have. So you can call Asura. You can go to our website, asura.org, and there is a comment link that you can just send a question to us, or you can just email us directly at help@asura.org. And we will we'll give you a call back or an email back, and we'll answer any questions you have. You do not have to be a participant with Asura for us to answer any basic questions you have, because I think it's important that people get as clear.
One last time, those contact points.
Yep, asura.org, so asura.org, and there's a comment page, or you can just email us directly at help@asura.org.
Okay, great. And Asura is with one S, ASURA.
One S, correct.
There you go. I know sometimes when I'm jotting it down, I accidentally write 2 S's, so I want to be really clear about that. So,
yes.
Well, Peter or Jason, any final questions, comments from you? Or
no, thank you so much, Peter. This has been enlightening and super helpful for listeners who I'm sure are trying to navigate this transition. Appreciate your help in understanding consultation services.
Yeah, and I would echo that. I think this really offers our listeners an opportunity to just see that, it's a process, and it's one that everybody has to go through, but it's a process, and there's a linear approach to this. So, and Asura is there to help, and you've got a great staff over there. I know most of them, and they're ready to go. So you're a great resource for folks. So again, thank you for being here to talk a little bit more specifically about the consultation process that leads to the choice of agency and budget model. So I really appreciate your time and your expertise, and look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you, Jason.